Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to our short session. So I'm David Shakespeare, Deputy Dipsy at Sandwell and West Birmingham. Good to see so many people in the room, including our Black Country colleagues, so it's great to have their support. It's not just me this afternoon, there's three of us. So with me is Emma Loosley. She was the Senior Commissioning Manager for the new hospital, now Head of Commissioning at the Trust. And we've also got Naran Vakaria, who was the construction quality manager from Balfour Beatty, and they were the hard FM builders, if you like. And this short session is the story of how three teams came together to contribute to the safe opening of the new hospital, and how we put together a problem-solving approach that we developed to tackle some of the issues that are arising. So the IPC issues arising, and examples we're going to show later in the presentation. So I'm going to hand over to Emma now, who's going to start us off with the design stage and how we came together as a team. And then I'm going to finish up with just looking at some of the benefits that we've seen from an IPC perspective.
Just by way of sort of setting the scene, a lot of you are probably aware of Midland Metropolitan University Hospital, which we opened in October last year, fully opened by the 10th of November, by the time we'd done all our moves. But I came to the project team in September 14. I'm a physio by background, and I've worked in the Trust for many years. I was asked to join the team, and we went out to market September 2014, and we started the process of building this hospital. By December 15, we'd signed the contract, and Carillion were our partners building this hospital under a PFI contract. Unfortunately, as you'll probably be aware, Carillion then went insolvent in 2018, January 2018. So we were left unable to move forward until we went into contract with Balfour Beatty in December 19. And we, as I say, went through the construction process and opened in 2024. So that's sort of the history. But along the way, we went through a process, and it's that we want to share with you. So the beginning of the process is the setting out of the design. Going into contract, we had the trust contractual requirements for construction requirements for the building. And some of the examples of what we set out from the beginning was that everything had to meet a cleaning regime, which was 10,000 parts per million of chlorine releasing agent and HPV, because at the time, that's the most concentrated we were using, and we were also using HPV. We've moved away from that now, but we're talking 10 years ago. By setting that as our requirement, it made it very simple as we're selecting materials, as we're making decisions, that everything met that criteria. We also looked at our room adjacencies from an IPC point of view and flow point of view to make sure that we were optimising that process. We weren't crossing clean and dirty flows and things like that that mean that the building is less effective. We looked at the way patients move through the building, the way goods move through the building, to make sure that we were optimising all of these. And in our selection of products that we were using through the process, IPC was also considered. So this was kind of our starting point, the background to the project, which was moving the two City and Sandwell hospitals into this new hospital, which was one single adult acute inpatient facility. I'm going to hand over to Naran, who I worked very closely with during the latter parts. Naran and I came together in
21. Thank you, yes. Thank you, Emma. Initially, when we were building up the rooms and the walls, I was tasked to go and have a look if the lads are building it correctly. And initially, I was like, sorry, I shouldn't say this word, but I can't. I said, knock it down. And then I went to another area and said, knock it down, please. And they kept on saying, who do you think you are? And I said, knock it down again. At that point, everybody took a breather. And I was asked by the director saying, what's going on? Why are you telling them to knock it down? I said, well, end of the day, if it's not right, if it's not built to the specification, it's coming down. And if it's not built to the requirements of the trust, it's coming down. And I think for 2 days we all took a pause, and then we said, actually, as per the contract requirements, we're down for building benchmark rooms. So we set up, I think it was 29 different types of rooms. And we said, let's go and build one. It was right or wrong, just let's go and build it, right to the finish. So we actually go and built it. And this is, I don't know if that one, no, probably the same one. This is the room we built first. And we went in and it looked okay. So I asked Emma, who was representing trusts, and could come and have a look at this. What do you think? Yeah, it looks okay, but it doesn't look right to certain elements. Can it be cleaned? Is it right for the IPC? We're not coming back to do stuff again and again. So we set up the process of benchmarking, and part of that we brought the IPC as being the key player. So the purpose is really to set criteria and expectations of the quality of the build. Contract, yeah, we sort of pulled that in, and it was identifying any issues which compromises IPC efficacy of the build, and make, end of the day, that's what it all rotated down to. So we scheduled, so once we've done one, we thought, actually, this is a good idea. Let's keep on going. So from the initial benchmark, we identified it was a benefit for the project. So we did regular IPC visits. So the early doors, it was Julie, I think it was. I can't remember. I think it was Julie. We went around and identified potential issues. We even brought the cleaners in. I said, can you actually physically clean these elements of works? What is the minimum gaps we need for it to be cleaned effectively? And we set them minimum gaps. And as you can see there, the key stakeholders, we brought David in, Jamie, IP matron, biologists, we came in, and we brought quite a few teams from IPC. Everybody has a different eye for detail, and we were doing that on a regular basis. As you can see, departments, reviewed every department based on what the IPC thought would be ideal, whether it was a critical care, whether it was maternity, children's ED department. We kept on going. I think this one is how we came together. So I'll just pass on to Emma.
We decided we'd play tag team through this presentation, much as we worked together as a team through the process. So having decided that this worked well in the benchmark rooms, we looked at who we needed, and the key players were myself from the commissioning side, from the project team, and Naren as the quality manager from Balfour Beatty. And we brought IPC in too, and we would have these regular meetings every 4 weeks. The agenda for the scope of the meetings was looking at design compliance. Was it compliant with what we'd asked for in the first place? Was it fit for purpose? Did it do what we needed it to do? Could we clean it? Were there gaps that were going to harbour dirt and consequently infection? And the workflows, did the workflows work? Could patients move around in this? Could the staff move around in the space and make it happen, make it work together? We did, through the process, because it was quite a long process, we did have a number of different people involved, and as Naren said, we had a lot of representation from IPC. David and Jamie were key, and they would come along, but they would bring colleagues as well. So we'd get those different opinions. We needed to, it was really important that the IPC weren't forgotten. We recognised what could happen if the right decisions weren't made at the right time. If you go along a track and and you haven't made those decisions, you've got a lot of a way to come back, and that will delay the programme, lead to problems, lead to having to mitigate risks which we didn't need to do. So we were identifying those risks, and we were preventing them becoming issues as we went through the process. So what would happen is, as the team came for their visits, we would decide at when Jamie and David arrived, was there anything that IPC wanted to particularly look into on that day? Were there any areas that we had got to a sort of a stage with that we wanted to review? Were there any issues that had been raised sort of in that 4-week period that we wanted to go and just look at and address? With each visit, it was recorded in a report that went out to everyone who'd attended, which identified the names of the people that had come. Most of the things we picked up were picked up through photographs and captured in the report with information about it. So the examples that I've put into this slide, or we've put into this slide, were things like cleaning gaps. So here, this is a shutter that comes across the reception in pharmacy, and it's got a day-date trunking that runs next to it. The gap between the two was about 10 millimetres, and you could never get into that gap to clean because it was probably this deep. So looking at it, we came up with a solution that we could put mastic in there, but only to where the radius started of the two items, so that you filled it and then you were left with something that was cleanable. If we'd extended the mastic beyond the radius, then you'd have something that would start failing as you clean. So it was important to come up with the right solutions. Another one is this one, which it's not quite clear in this photograph on the screen, but running down here is where the corner of the room is. That wall with the sockets on runs that way, and then this one with the bed head on comes that way, and this data socket was right in the corner. So again, it got this horrible gap, which we could have masticed, but it wasn't right, so we moved the socket. This one, around quality of workmanship, we'd agreed in the benchmarks how those coved corners could be cleaned and what was acceptable. When we came across ones that were poorly made and had crevices and things in them, they would be identified, and Aaron would put his do it again hat on, and off we'd go. They'd be made to do it again. Other things that we'd pick up, we wouldn't necessarily have the solution at that point, but we knew it was an issue. So this one here was between the wash hand basin and the hopper. You've obviously got the risk of contamination as you get aerosols across the two. So it was important to us to record this, capture everything. We would then, following the report, anything that was an issue would be put into a tracker. That tracker would then map those decisions and record them. If we'd made the decision at the time, that would be recorded. If it was something we needed to progress further, it was left as an open issue, which we would come back to. So, this is the examples of our problem solving. So the first one, as we identified in that previous report you saw, was this. Our solution was to come up with a splash screen that went between the two. We had to look at how that was fitted, how the interfaces worked, and make sure that it all was cleanable and satisfactory to everyone's requirements. So that's what we did there. Another example of problems that we discovered was in theatres. So this is in theatres, this is a low-level extract. The grill that was on here was an egg crate grill, which is probably some examples in this room somewhere, but they had very small square holes in them, which initially it was the theatre sister who picked it up, but it was backed up by IPC that cleaning to go into every single one of those, which are probably 10 millimetre holes, was going to be a nightmare, and they'd be doing that between cases. So we replaced it with a linear bar grill, which then you can clean between them much more successfully. But also during this process, David and Jamie said, well, have you got to maintain stuff behind there? Yes, of course we do. So what happens when we take this off? It comes off, you've got paint there, you're likely to pull some of that paint off with the grill, and you get damage to the paintwork. That then is going to be a problem with aspergillus and other things forming there. So our solution to that, which we implemented at the same time, was to install this picture frame detail, which was out of Acrovin, and it was put around the aperture, and then the grill was fitted over the top of that. So as you take it on and off, as you're needing to do your duct cleaning, as you're needing to do other maintenance work, you're not going to have that damage, you're not going to generate that risk or problem that was there. So that was the type of way that we went through.
When we were doing the theatre reviews, we identified, we got this corner protection, but we got told, well, actually, you need to mastic it all, fully mastic it, make it solid. So I turned around and said, actually, the whole purpose of this item is to take the impact of a bed when it hits that corner, so it doesn't damage the wall. If it damages the aseptic paint on the wall, you've got a bigger problem. So the front bit, which is that section there, actually moves every time the bed hits it, so it absorbs the impact. The aluminium is a fixed solid section which is fixed to the wall. So it came about, hang on, if we clean this wall, whether it's washing it, wiping it, it's going to get a bit of moisture in there, and it's going to have growth or whatever. So we identified the issue, so we went out, we asked David, we asked Jamie, and then we were in a stalemate with what detail to do. So what we ended up doing, we thought of an issue, item to resolve, then we actually said, actually, we need somebody else to tell us and make sure what we're saying makes sense. So we actually spoke to, or David did, actually spoke to IPC England at the time. And she actually said, well, I can leave it with me and I'll identify it, see what the other hospitals which she looks after does. And they came about, they have the same similar problem. If they solid mastic it, it damages the wall. Then nobody repairs the wall because you always need the theatre working. So this solution, we actually put up to IPC England, and she came back and said, that makes sense. The plastic, if it breaks, can be repaired, can be replaced. The aluminium, 9 out of 10, doesn't move unless somebody's actually pushed the bed in at full speed. So we actually sealed it 100% behind the aluminium, as you can see. So we masticed it, put the aluminium on, took it off to make sure there was 100% adhesion behind, so there was no gaps left, and put the aluminium back on. And we photographed every single one for that room and put it on our log. So if we ever get questioned, we don't have to take it off. We can say, right, this is before, this is during, and this is after. So we identified every single one corners in the theatres. Following that, we're coming to the end of the hospital now, coming almost to the completion. And we had to do a pre-handover inspection of the hospital. So how are we going to do this? There's thousands of rooms. If I remember, there was 4,600 and something rooms in total. So we decided as a team, how are we going to resolve this? So we said, well, actually, we'll walk every single space, every single one. I mean, I've done it, me and Emma's done it 6 times, but we need to do it with the IPC now, because we got to make sure that they were confident that at the end of the day, hospital was compliant, so we don't have an issue at opening. So we went in every single space. So, all right, so how do we log that? So we identified that, so as you can see, so every room every floor we finished, we identified in green. That means we've done. So that released it for the cleaning team, which was the clinical team. Every time we finished an area, that gave it to the clinical team. So as the clinical teams are moving back down, we would go back in again and check that has it been cleaned correctly. Have we missed anything which we didn't pick up? Because every time you go into a room, you pick up something else. your eyes gets focused to different aspects of work. You know, you have tunnel vision. So we would do it again. So every time we finished a whole floor, we put a big tick in it. So individual sections, there was green ticks behind. Every time we finished a full floor or a full wing, with a great big tick, put that on the wall. If anybody comes and says, well, actually, what have you done? I would like to know. There it is. It's in black and white. You can see it. It's visual impact.
So what were the building benefits? All this problem-solving approach, what were the benefits for IPC? So we've got 50% side room across the building, so 350 side rooms, which is fabulous for us in IPC. So there's never any reason for anybody to not be isolated where we need to. Picture on the top left, that gives you a sense of what the PPVR rooms, so the positive pressure ventilation lobby rooms, look like. We've got 58 of those across the trust, predominantly bunched in respiratory and haematology for obvious reasons. For those doing their HCID plan, we've got 2 in the ED, so that's good for us as well in terms of writing the HCID plan and the patient journey in through ED. Oh, sorry. Okay. And obviously the standard Magna Helic gauges you'll see there, and we've got the green button functioning well, red button, which probably means somebody's left the door open, and we've actually got a special amber button, which is a clean mode. So inside the PPVR rooms, there's a shutter comes across in the ducting, which means that we can do HPV in that room if we need to. But I say we've predominantly gone over to UVC, but that facility's there. The bottom picture, you get a sense of the lobby. And the others is we've got sliding doors into the lobby area, and with 10 pascals of air pressure into the lobby with extract through the ensuite bathroom. So we're very lucky, and we know that. In terms of the base, so each ward is 32 bedded, so we've got 16 side rooms and then 4 bays of 4 beds. You can see that they've been built to HBN04 specifications, so the current health building notes. Lots and lots of space in between the beds. So any other hospital and any that I've worked in for, you'd have 3 beds there in that amount of space, and we've got 2. And I've got to say, it's anecdotal, but since last November, we've had 1 norovirus outbreak on a ward, which was shut down really quickly. And we've had 2 flu outbreaks. One involved 3 patients, and the other involved 2 patients, and that has been it for the whole winter since last November. So well, don't thank us. That's not us. This is about IPC in the built environment. So I was blown away by Yvonne Curran's session this morning, if you remember, talking about ventilation and the impact of respiratory passed on infections, and I thought that was great. And I thought, well, I did put my hand up to say, well, actually, that's been our experience, that when you've got compliant ventilation, it makes a massive difference. So again, if we've got somebody coming into ED with respiratory symptoms, they can go into a single cubicle, they get their respiratory panel. If they have to be admitted, they can come into a single room, and that's it. We don't get any outbreaks. I think I'm being signalled that we've run out of time, so we've had plenty of opportunity to review the door isolation signage. So that's our spread. So we looked at green for standard IPC, purple for protective, blue for transmission base, orange for respiratory base, including where AGP is needed, and FFP3, red if you need FFP3 at the point of entry, so measles, TB, something like that. We've also taken the opportunity to look at the waste stream, so we've put white lidded bins in all the side rooms, and we changed the bag, if you like, not the bin lid, if you like. So the other thing we've done was hugely important was water safety. Other trusts have had issues with new builds, have had issues with water safety holding up the opening. We've had none of that. We had a DIPSI chaired water safety meeting. We had the authorising engineer practically living on site for months, and we had over 20,000 samples. And as a consequence of that diligence, if you like, we've had no Legionella positives up to and after opening, which has been absolutely incredible. And just, again, the problem-solving approach. We saw this picture in another presentation this morning. We noticed on one of our walkarounds that Balfour Beatty, sorry, Naren, had installed, no, it was a contractor, had installed 100 mil spouts instead of 150 mil spouts, so therefore they had to go around and replace all of those before opening. And that bottom one is the cleaner's sink in the cleaner's cupboard, where they put in the washer the wrong way around, so it's going to cause pooling. So all this minor detail, some of which you don't see until almost you're open, is why we had that problem-solving approach. So anybody wants to be in touch, this is Jamie, our matron. And as you can see, we had quite a lot of fun along the way as well. There are 10 of these around the trust because for bariatric patients these days, obviously we need to have that facility. That's called the Big John toilet. So we did have fun during our journey. Contact details, this is us at Sandwell and West Birmingham. So if you want any more detail about what we did and how we did it, do please get in touch.